The first is just a very basic question, but basically no research has been done on dry farm vineyards in California before, so we're just starting at square one, trying to figure out how much water is being used in dry farm versus irrigated vineyards. Of course, dry farm vineyards are still using rainwater. There is some water use that's happening, so trying to compare, okay, how does that actually look compared to an irrigated vineyard, which is having supplemental water added to it as well. We're also interested in the relationship between carbon accumulation and water use in vineyards. For obvious reasons, people care a lot about carbon sequestration these days, and then also from a water perspective, organic matter actually holds on to water in soils, and so it's especially relevant in these dry farm vineyards. And also, water can play an important role in helping sequester carbon in soils and microbial activity. So, trying to figure out what are the maybe trade-offs, maybe synergies there. And then finally, looking into dry farming and harvest outcomes. So, there's certainly a sort of common conception that dry farming will decrease yields. We want to see if that's actually true. And then we're also really interested in quality outcomes as well, right? Because especially with a product like wine, you care maybe even a lot more about the quality than the quantity that you're producing. So taking that all together, we've come up with a research design where we've paired dry farm and irrigated vineyards across the state. We're working with a lot of places in Napa County and then also Sonoma County and down in San Luis Obispo as well. And because we don't have decades to look at what is the conversion process from dry farm or from irrigated to dry farm management, we're instead pairing dry farm and irrigated vineyards that are right next to each other and have similar soil types, they're all growing the same varieties of grapes, they have similar climates, and looking at, okay, what are the differences that we're seeing in soil and in vines in these dry farm and irrigated pairs that are right next to each other. And we're measuring a whole bunch of things. To start out with, in soils, we're looking at water content, soil texture, which of course has a lot to do with how much water and carbon soils can hold. We're looking at carbon content, and then we'll use those to try to explain all of these different vine physiology traits as well. So we're looking at water stress, evapotranspiration, which is a measure of plant water use, the depth of water extraction, so how far deep are these vineyard roots or vine roots going to get water in dry farm versus irrigated systems, and water use efficiency. And then of course looking at yield and quality metrics in these vines as well. And just to start off with some super preliminary results, all of the carbon data is actually being processed as we speak. The machines are running in the lab, but before we get to all of the carbon, we do have results just about the stem water potential. So this is a measure of vine stress, and really interestingly, we're finding that there's no statistical difference between water stress in dry farm versus irrigated vines. So just a little peek into the fact that it seems like these vines are adapting to these different systems and are compensating for the different amounts of water that they're able to access. And then we'll go in and start looking more at carbon and all of these other, water use efficiency, all of these other traits to try to see more about how that's actually playing out in these systems. And I think we're actually not taking questions now, so I will hand it over to the next person.